Hey, welcome back to our Retire Early lifestyle. I got some Whoppers for you. Stick around. Try something different for you guys today. Thought I'd give you guys a little bit of a view here. See what you think. In this Whopper, we're talking about food. In a lot of our videos, and almost all of them, we're always showing food. And food is, well, it's central to life. So we talk about food, and a lot of people like seeing the different foods we prepare. And I've always said that we took the skills we learned, we took our self-sufficiency wherever we went. And throughout our life, it is part of what makes our Retire Early lifestyle work. This is one of the tools that we've utilized to give us the flexibility that we have needed in order to do all of the things that we have always wanted to do in life, and do them at a young age before we get too old. And one of them is be self-sufficient in food and preparing your own food. We like preparing our own food because we actually enjoy eating freshly prepared food. A lot of times, when was the last time you went out to eat and you were disappointed? You know it happens a lot. And I would encourage you today to, even if it's just once a week, start cooking at home your own food. And here's the thing, we also talk about the actual food availability in stores in these countries. And I think it's something that people kind of take for granted. That's one of the things that newbie travelers, people that haven't traveled, and a lot of Americans fit into this category. They never been abroad before. They haven't traveled around. If you've got a little bit more of a refined palate than just, you're not going to be happy just, eating whatever local fare is available. And perhaps you're not interested in spending hundreds of dollars a month going out to eat. And for all of those reasons, whatever the reasons are, it doesn't really matter. For one reason or another, we also talk about the food availability. And we talked about in Panama how unavailable the food was, especially in the dairy department. Now, we are finding the same thing to be true in Mexico. It's appalling. I'm just flabbergasted. I'm just amazed. I cannot believe, and I'm talking about this. You see that we were in Baja for like a couple of years, and I never talked about it. Now, I talked about the pharmacies, but that's a different subject. But now that I'm moved out of Baja and I'm coming here to Jalisco, I'm here in Jalisco, and I'm all over the place looking in these stores, and I'm going, this is ridiculous. It's the same thing as it was in Baja. And I cannot believe that a place like this, that is an international resort city. This is literally, we came to Puerto Vallarta in the 80s, believe it or not. In the 80s, when we were first married, we came to Puerto Vallarta, and we weren't paying any attention to that because it was just a vacation. And it was just a couple of weeks, and it was all-inclusive resort. You did the pool thing, you did the fancy lunches and dinners, all-inclusive, and nobody cared. And then you went home. It all worked out. It was fancy. It was great. But when you live here, and when it's your lifestyle, you care. I care. I have a refined palate. I like to eat good food, and I like to eat out. But I also like to eat, good homemade food, simply prepared. And no, I couldn't believe, even in an international resort town, and maybe because it's an international resort town where there's a lot of travelers that don't really stick around all that long, a lot of things get swept under the rug, and it could be why not much is said. But it's the same thing. I couldn't believe, as Baja, it's the same thing here. And there's no cream here, very little fresh milk. Now, they've got a whole shelf, and don't think I just went to one store and I'm sitting here making a video wasting your time. I've been to all the stores, and I just cannot believe what I'm seeing. I mean, All the shelf, and this is the same thing in Baja too. The shelves are full. Okay, you'd say, what's he talking about? Look at all that yogurt and all that dairy. Not one single tub of that dairy is without sugar or without chemicals. Not one single tub. I have spent so much time looking and looking and looking, and there isn't anything. It's all, this just boggles my mind, because you sit here and you pick up a tub of yogurt and it'll say natural on it. And since when do adults that are in business, do they not know the difference between something that's natural, or are they just trying to con people? When you put something that's been processed and mix it with something natural, you just adulterated it. It's no longer natural. You cannot keep the label natural on something that you just put an adulterated or processed product in it. Now, I don't know how much detail you want, but there's reasons probably why some of this stuff is done, and I could go all over the place with this conversation, but I cannot believe how much poor folks are taken advantage of here. I mean, this food is poison here. I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating. There's like hydrogenated oil mixed with milk, and it's just to make it cheaper. And the poor folks, they're not going for it. I just talked to a local the other day, was selling a different brand, and I said, is this brand good, or is this got chemicals, or is this real milk? And she's like, oh no. She said, oh yeah, this is not such and such a brand. So the locals are fully aware of the brands that are garbage food. And so, like I said, there is a little bit of fresh milk here, but not that much. There is some, but there's no real cream, there's no real yogurt, there's no real cottage cheese, there's nothing. To me, I don't buy products. I take care of my health. I care about this stuff. It's a big deal to me. And when I can't get anything, and especially when I get stuff that says natural, and then you look at the label and it's got literally sugar, processed sugar in it, or chemicals, or both, and then hydrogenated oils. This stuff causes cancer. Give me a break. And it's mixed in with the dairy to make it cheaper, so that poor folks, come on, give me a break. This is a total abuse of poor people here. It's an abuse, and it's just, people need to wise up, and I think that a lot of the locals are wising up, and they're not buying these products. I know some of them probably are out of necessity, probably just from lack of knowledge. They don't really know what they're doing, but a lot of people aren't buying them because it's just garbage food. Now, if you're in other parts of Mexico, tell me in the comments. Tell me if this isn't so in other parts of Mexico. Now, there could be. I was surprised that in a place like this that is so tropical, this is the other side of this conversation. It's not just what's not on the shelf or the quality of what's on the shelf, it's the quantity. Now, there's plenty of boxed foods, which I'm not interested in. I'm all about fresh food. And this is just, I'm just floored at the lack of food in this area. I was expecting a place like this that's tropical to just be bustling with food everywhere. You don't see any street vendors at all. This is so homogenized. This whole town is so homogenized. You can tell they've just made it illegal to sell on the side of the street or whatever. So the quaint aspect of being abroad, it has been homogenized, and that's one thing. And the other thing is that the actual vendors that have food, there's not that many of them, and they don't have much. So there's not that many of them, and then when you find them, because they're scattered around town, they don't have much. They have some, but for the size of this city, take a look at that. That's a pretty big city. For the size of the city, let me tell you, once you come down here and you actually go look at what they got, and you say, is this all? Is this all they got? This is it? And this is just, people come abroad because they think, well, I'm going to go somewhere tropical where there's more food, and because of the controllers that are trying to control us through food, and all this thing. And then you get down here, and I hear people talk about this. They say, oh, you know, Mexico, you know, food, right? Food. You know, what part of that, you know, I mean, developing country, right? Tropical weather, good weather, sunny all the time, rain, you know, there's got to be like an abundance of food. But this place scares me, I'm telling you. And I'm just appalled at the lack of food and choice and quantity of fresh food. Lots of box foods, you know, that at some point you could get to where you've got to pass through a gatekeeper to get through box foods. But I don't want them anyway, even if there's no gatekeeper. So this is something that people are going to want to know. And actually, the president of Mexico, AMLO, is trying to encourage local farmers to grow more food, to grow more heirloom food, you know, just to be more food independent. And I think that the farmers need to get that message, and somebody needs to, you know, encourage these farmers. And you know, I myself, I always shop at the small mom and pop farmer outlets. I always shop there whenever I can, as much as I can. But again, they're just few and far between. There is food here. I'm not trying to say there's no food, but again, for the size of the city, I'm really not impressed with the quantity. Meaning that not impressed, but I mean, it's not enough food. I don't know how to make it more clear. How does that make you feel, that you would go to a place like this where you have year-round better weather, better conditions for growing, and then there's just a minuscule amount of food. Even the food that's in the stores is very tiny. Their little produce sections are so tiny and small, and some of the biggest stores here have the smallest produce sections. It's just shaking my head. So what do you think about that? Does that surprise you? Let me know in the comments what you think about that. And then what about the availability? I cannot believe that I come here in Mexico, in a big, huge international city that's been here 40 years, and I go looking for cocoa and I find Hershey's cocoa. Are you serious? I was making videos in Ecuador about this. I'm not interested in Hershey's cocoa. When I go, I didn't want it when I was in the States. I didn't want. Look, I'm a natural food guy. I'm a naturalist. I take care of my health. I'm all about natural ingredients, fresh ingredients. And some of this stuff, people don't realize, some of this food from these corporations has been bad all along. I mean, you don't want it. And so I've always been all about locally produced food. And I was made videos about this even in Ecuador. And after a short time of making those videos, local producers rose up to the task, and you started seeing all these locally produced products, and I'm just amazing. And I was so happy about it. And you know, and so there was such an availability of like things like that, like chia and cocoa and all these things that you can get in Ecuador, which amazingly Ecuador actually, well, when we were there anyway, I'm not sure what's happening now about the quantity of food. I'll have to check my sources on this, but they had way more quantity of food. You're going to be blown away by this. Tell me in the comments if you're blown away by this. Ecuador actually had more food than I'm seeing here. Not only do they have more quantity of food, but they have more variety of food and more availability of fresh local food. As I said, I go to the store here and I see Hershey's cocoa and I'm shaking my head, and I'm asking the worker, where's the locally produced cocoa? You know, where is it? And they got the same thing going on. They got the shiny package of chia that costs, you know, it's just a couple 100 grams, and it costs, you know, $5 when it's just, you know, you should be getting, you know, a kilo of chia for that price, because it's produced not very far from here. So that's the point. Locally produced food is fresher, there's more of it, and it's more economical. And so that I'm just appalled that that's the condition of things here in Mexico. If you're in other places in Mexico, confirm what I'm saying or tell me how they're different for you. all of the things I said. So anyhow, thank you for staying with me. Thank you for coming to my channel. Thank you for watching the video. Leave us a comment below and have a wonderful day.